Welcome to Rise to Liberty podcast. Today I am joined by the one and only G. Edward Griffin. Just so everyone in the audience is aware, there have been a little bit of technical difficulties due to internet connection issues. So, worst case scenario, we might have to record this not live and I'll just upload it after. However, it seems to be working for the meantime. So, let's jump right into it. And how you doing today, Mr. Griffin?
I'm doing very well, Jacob. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Like I was saying before, it's a great honor. Your amazing book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, was definitely a part of my awakening to how the world really works, and it's been incredibly influential.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Put a lot of work into that book, and as you probably would guess, I didn't think anybody would want to read a big book like that on such a topic as the Federal Reserve System, but it turned out otherwise. So I'm glad it reached you.
Yes, it's I've actually talked to a lot of people that book has reached. I myself, work with a lot of freedom fighters, a lot of people who care about liberty, and I hear your name come up a lot. So you've reached quite a few people.
Well, that's a good feeling. Now let's hope that we can convert all that reaching and all that knowledge into bringing about a change in the world.
Exactly. So just real quick, for anyone who doesn't know, do you kind of want to explain what the creature from Jekyll Island is?
Well, yeah, I think very few people really know what it is, and it's a strange creature for sure. Um, it could. I have given 2-day seminars on this topic, uh, trying to explain what it is. And so, where do you draw the line? How far can you condense it? To how many words? Actually, it's theoretically possible to condense the whole thing down into 3 words. Are you ready? It's a scam. Okay, that's the simplest definition of what the Federal Reserve is. A scam? What's that? How's that possible? Because most people, including myself at one time, are convinced that the Federal Reserve is an agency of the federal government and it's there to protect us and to help us and to control the economy and make sure we have a prosperous environment and all those good things that's there to help us, in other words. Well, that's not true. That's not what it is at all. The next level up explanation is that the Federal Reserve System is a cartel. And it is. It's not an agency of the federal government. It's a corporation, of course, but a corporation doesn't tell you enough. It's incorporating what? It's incorporating a cartel, like an association, like a labor union, or like a cartel, very similar entities, and which means that it is not an entity of a life force of its own. It's made up of it's a composite concoction of many different entities, and those are the banks. The big banks of the world dominate this cartel. And so it's an association of banks, a cartel of banks, no different than a banana cartel or a coffee cartel or oil cartel. It just happens to be a banking cartel, which is, when you think about that, it's kind of a shocking reality because it means that the banks are controlling the economy. They're controlling the issuance of money. Even the United States government itself does not issue its own money. The American money is issued by a banking cartel, a private banking cartel, which has succeeded in fooling everybody into thinking that it's somehow the United States government doing these things. And it's not. It's just your banker not the one down the street, but the one probably in Basel, Switzerland, or in Washington, D.C. Very few of these guys at the top run the whole thing, but it's very, very, very private, and it's kind of misleading because this issue of private and business or public-private partnerships, they like to call them, because it sounds so good and so friendly and so cooperative. That's misleading because it's not a partnership exactly. It's a coming together. It's a melding. It's a blending of private operations, private companies, private businesses, blending, actually physically blending with the power of government, because the cartel has so much influence over the politicians, because the cartel issues the money. Now the cartel has the money. It has all the money, and it can buy whatever it wants. And one of the most important things that the cartel wants to buy with that money is the politicians. And they have purchased them, a good many of them. And I don't mean they go and they say, how much are you for sale?
Oh, and it looks like he had dropped out. So let's see. Let's get him back. Just hold on for just a sec. This is what I was talking about. He is actually in a very remote location. So it's actually kind of difficult to get the internet where he is. And here he is.
So I thought maybe that's a good way to start. It's a scam. It's a scam because it's a cartel. It's not a federal agency of the federal government, and it pretends to be. And it pretends to be and working in the best interest of the American people, when in fact it is working in the best interests of the people that are the dominant figures in the cartel, the international banking fraternity, who are the people who run the world, literally. So that's a big mouthful right there. The Federal Reserve System is the American branch of an international conglomerate or cartel, a bank, as they own the money that is necessary to buy the politicians who pass the laws. Now, that's about as good a summary as I could do in taking less than a full day.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that got through, but my screen was blank. Therefore, I hope that most of it got through.
Most of it did get through. We lost you just for a quick moment. I would say that's a very, very thorough summary.
Well, now I'm sorry to report that I am not hearing you, Jacob. This is going to be fun for your listeners, trying to figure out who's.
Okay. Oh, and your video's catching up.
Now my screen is blank.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Let's see. Let's see here.
I don't know if this is worth my trying to just talk about the Federal Reserve or what. Probably not. It's unlikely that it's getting through.
Well, we can hear you now if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Let's see here. We can hear you on our end. Let's see. Hear me.
Oh, you're back. All right.
Oh, there you are.
I certainly must apologize to you and to your listeners for this trouble, but it's beyond our control.
It's true. It is true. And like I was saying before, technology is 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, or sometimes 4 steps back.
Yeah.
So I would say that that's.
Go ahead. What's the next question? Maybe we can make progress with that one.
Well, I would definitely say that was a very thorough definition of what the Federal Reserve is. I'm trying to think back when I first started learning about all of this. It was incredibly shocking to me to learn that this was a private institution. You hear Federal Reserve, you tend to think, well, and it's a bank, but it's a private bank, and that. When I first started learning about all of this, that was quite shocking. And it was also shocking to learn that most people don't know that's a private institution, which is also unconstitutional for a private institution to issue our money. So,
Well, that's certainly true. There are certain, it's certainly not authorized by the Constitution. I don't know that you could argue it was forbidden, but the Constitution says, basically, in many ways, it says anything not written in the Constitution is forbidden. It says this is it, and this is all that the federal government is allowed to do: run a post office and fight your wars, and that'd be about it.
yeah.
And if it isn't in here, forget it. Well, it's not in there, so, and they didn't forget it. They just the banks went after it, and they somehow either paid off the politicians of the time back in 1913, paid them off, or confused them sufficiently into thinking it was a really good idea that these dumbheads went ahead and gave away they have a right and an obligation to control the nation's money supply. That's in the Constitution. And they just wrote that and passed it on to the private cartel as though, we'll go fishing instead, like it was no big deal. Well, it was a very big deal. And you're quite right when you come to the first realization that the Federal Reserve System is a private, correctly identified it, whether it was a cartel or what. That's a shocker. But then it takes for that to sink in as to what that means. And in case somebody's in a hurry to come to that conclusion, let me hasten that analysis, because this is the really big one. That means that the government does not control the Federal Reserve System, but instead the Federal Reserve bankers control the government. Now, when you let that sink in, that means we do not have a government of the people and by the people and for the people. We have now, since 1913, we have had a government of the banks, for the banks, and over the people. And most people don't see it, but if they once realize how it works, you can see it everywhere. And most of what we are aware about the Federal Reserve and the news analysis and news reports and those conferences they have in Washington, D.C., it's more like a stage show. It's a deception. It's to perpetuate the illusion that we somehow control our own government, when in fact we don't.
And one thing I would like to ask, when did you start coming to these realizations?
Well, the first red pill, little tiny red pill that I took was in 1960. And that was a very small one. I just happened to read a little magazine called the Freeman magazine. And it was devoted to stories and vignettes and letters to the editor, all on the issue of laissez-faire government. I never read anything like that. I'd never heard anything like that. I went through.
Oh, and we lost him again. I do sincerely apologize to anyone watching right now. We do kind of have to limp our way through this. Let's see.
So, okay. So I'll pick it up again here. Yeah, that was that called the Freeman magazine, was telling stories and doing analysis of economics on the basis of capitalism and laissez-faire. I was so shocked by it. I had never read anything like that before. I got and taught was that, the government has to control all these things because people are too stupid to do it themselves, or they're too crooked or evil or selfish or something. We need only these wise and generous and dependable politicians can be trusted to run our lives, and we couldn't do it ourselves, certainly not our monetary system and all that sort of thing. And so anyway, I read this little magazine and I thought, wow, that's interesting. And so I subscribed. That was my first little red pill. And after that, of course, I kept running across bigger and bigger red pills until finally I nations, which I thought was the last best hope for peace. And then I came to realize that that wasn't true either. That was the opposite of the truth. And eventually that led me to the Federal Reserve System. And now we're going on, to the New World Order and the Great Reset and all of these things. And the vaccines that are supposed to be for our good, and all these things that are supposed to be for our good really aren't when you find out about them. It's quite an awakening. But to answer your question, the first one began back in 1960 with that little tiny red pill.
And so what ended up leading to you wanting to write a book about the Federal Reserve?
Well, I'm sorry, Jacob, I'm not hearing or seeing you, so I don't know if we're connected or on the air or what. Don't know quite what to do.
Can you hear me now?
To think of what your listeners might like to hear from me.
Let's see.
I suppose the obvious question is, well, what's going on today with the Federal Reserve? What's going on with all this money creation that they're doing? And it's a very important question. And it's hard to really know. And as often is the case with issues like this that are very confusing, they're confusing because we're trying to make sense out of them, when in fact, they don't make sense. They're not supposed to make sense. Remember, I started off this thing by saying it's a scam. Well, scams don't make sense except for the scammer. But for everybody else, they don't make sense. And so when people say, well, why would the Federal Reserve and all these bankers be creating so much taxes and expanding government and all these things? Why that doesn't work? It destroys its liberty. It's destructive of everything we value. Don't they realize they're making a mistake? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. They're stupid. Well, no, it doesn't.
Oh, man, there we go. So let's see here. I did just send him.
Collapse because they want to rebuild out of the ashes. They want to create a system of total control over our lives, over the economy, even over our thinking process, over our reproductive process, even what's food we eat. They want total control over everything we do. And in order to create a system like that, which has never existed on this planet before, they have to destroy the old system. And so now, once we understand that the goal is not to solve problems, but to make problems worse, to aggravate situations until the whole structure collapses and people are on their hands and knees begging for food and water and shelter and health care and clothing and heat and things like that. Oh, please take care of us, government. Please help us. We're dying. Can't you see? We have terrorism. We have diseases. Oh, we have all these horrible, horrible things. Help us, help us, help us. We don't care what it costs. Take our liberties away. We're drowning. We need air. Help us. This is the scheme we must understand. This is the scam now. This thing has grown until now we see it at this level that I'm describing. And I know these words to most people would sound absolutely bizarre. What kind of a wackadoodle is this guy Griffin talking? That would never happen. It's not going to happen. Not in America anyway. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's happening. And you better wake up and realize it if you want to stop it from going to full force, because that is where this whole process has led in my lifetime, from that little red pill I took back in 1960, when we were living in a very free society and a very prosperous society. We had liberty and prosperity. Our style of living was flexible enough, fluid enough, comfortable enough that we could do whatever we wanted to do. We could take care of the poor and the needy and have plenty left over because production was up. We were living in a prosperous system, plenty of room for charity. And then they had to take the charity away from the people and put it through the government. So now we'll governmentize the charity, make welfare and entitlements and benefits and get votes and so forth. And they destroyed the whole thing, you see. They didn't really do that because they wanted to help the poor. They did that because they wanted more of the poor, and they wanted them all dependent on them. That's why they did it. And that process is going on today. We've got this guaranteed annual income now. Oh, isn't that wonderful? They'll send us money every year. And of course, that's the big ring through your nose. Yeah, they'll send you money as long as you do exactly what they say, when they say it, and how you want them to do it. And the minute you step out of line, they'll disconnect you from that hose of money every year and take your money out of there. In fact, you won't have any money. That's the great reset and the great digital currency coming up. You won't even have any money. You just have these digital units that they'll allow if you're a good boy and girl and do exactly as you're told. But coming even close to doing or thinking things like like I'm saying right now, you're out, buddy. You're out on the street. You don't even have a place to sleep. And this is where we're headed. And so that's the bad news of the day. Now, the good news is that the people are waking up to that. And it's going to be a close race for the finish line because the awakening is happening so rapidly. But by the same time, these people that want to clamp down on us realize that the window is closing. They have a limited time to finish it off. And they're getting very careless and very anxious to wrap it all up with some. That's dangerous, but by the same time, it's very advantageous because it makes it easier to see what they're really doing. They've dropped all the facade in many cases, and they're just saying, that's what we're going to do, and you better like it because otherwise you're going to be in big trouble. So which side are you on? Are you on the side of all those people that want to live their own lives selfishly as they wish and so forth? Or are you going to be part of our team and live in our collective beehive, and we'll take care of you and tell you it's all for your own good, and you will believe it, and so forth. So that's where we're headed.
So hopefully you can hear me and see me.
I can at the moment, yes.
Okay, perfect. So one thing I kind of wanted to ask your opinion about COVID, but more specifically the government lockdowns that we experienced worldwide. What was that surprising to you? How everyone was just willing to listen to what the government and so-called officials said, to the point where they were willing to throw their neighbors and their family under the bus, so to speak, in the name of safety.
No, it wasn't surprising. It was shocking to see it, but I was not the least bit surprised because let's face it, the American people have been conditioned over a long period of time to do this sort of thing. It was surprising, you might say, that so many Americans didn't question Pearl Harbor. It's surprising they didn't question 9/11. It's surprising. I mean, we've had some pretty amazing scams out there, huge scams. Adolf Hitler was the one that said, if you want to tell a lie and want to make people believe it, make it a really big lie, because then it's incomprehensible to the average person that anyone would try and be so stupid as to promote a big lie, so big that it's not even logical. But he said, no, it's just the opposite. The bigger the lie, the easier it is that people will believe it because they're easily mystified by it. So yeah, we bought into the 9/11 attack, the terrorism attack. I mean, think that a couple of guys from the United Arab Republic or someplace or could 3 buildings and perfect timing is, and then all this legislation that comes out, the Patriot Act comes out a month later. It took them years to write the Patriot Act, but there it was, all ready to go right after the 9/11 towers came down. Nobody questioned it, you see, and that's your point. Did it surprise me that people just blandly accept these things? Well, not anymore, and at that time it didn't either because I'd already seen it happen in pretty big events in history. So it was just a continuation of the same. And I can understand it because I went through the school system myself. I was taught, be a team player. Don't question authority. In fact, it was not good to question authority. Just you do what your teachers tell you and believe them, and don't make noise, don't rock the boat, all these things, be a team player. I went for that. I thought that makes sense. Greater good of the greater number, be that collective beehive, and we'll all be happy forevermore. So this has been going on for a long period of time. The school system primarily has been drumming that into the heads of the American people, and people all around the world are going through the same process. We're being taught that it is honorable and it is ethical and it's the right thing to do to follow authority and never question it. And no matter how obvious the crime may be, if it's authority, well, it must be good because government is good and that sort of thing. So the short answer to your question is no, I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It was shocking.
Yeah, it was shocking. Still is.
And exactly. I was just about to say that it is still shocking.
Well, you know, maybe this deserves a little extra commentary as to why families are divided, let's say. So right down the middle, and we see it everywhere. Fortunately, it's not in my family, but I've seen it in so many other families. Husband and wife will be divided on this issue of the vaccines. One person will say, well, can't you see that these vaccines they're just experimental? They've never been done before. And besides, there's no pandemic. Can't you see it? They're just all in the news media, and they stage these things. And didn't you see that documentary where they had all these people in the hospital and they were dying of COVID? They were on ventilators and the nurses running around. And then we find out that the whole thing was put on by a woman doctor who was in charge of doing simulations. That was her job. Didn't you read that? Well, yeah, but that one was real, you know, because they saw it on television. I bring back to authority again. Television is an authority. If you see it on television, it must be true. Read it in the newspaper, it's probably true, even though it's not logical, but that's the way we've been trained to react. And so, yeah, why are these families divided on this thing? And I've been thinking a lot about that. And I think it seems to me that we're dealing with something that is related to ethics or to morality. We have been conditioned to accept a certain thing to be good versus evil, right versus wrong. And we're most humans, if they're worth their salt, are concerned about good versus wrong, right, evil, and right versus wrong, because we want to do the right thing. And we're born into a culture in which a lot of these questions of what is good and evil and what is right and wrong are determined. We don't figure them out. They've been all figured out, and we're born into it. And now we're told this is it. This is the church you go to. This is the religion you hold. These are the concepts that you think are true. This is the judicial system we have, and so forth. And so we're born into it, and we're conditioned to think this is the moral, ethical thing. And if we don't do it right, we're not going to go to heaven. You know, this sort of thing. It's really deep as to the rightness or wrongness of something. Now, having said that, you know, if you have two people in a marriage or in a family, and it's divided on, let's say, religion, there's half of the family that has a strong religious belief on religion A, and then the other half is strong on religious B. You got a problem on your hands in most cases. Sometimes they can override and say, okay, we'll be tolerant and so forth. But the deeper their conviction is, and the less logic there is, it's more faith. If it's faith-based, in other words, faith-based, because it comes from authority. It's revealed information. It's not something you figured it out on your own, but it's revealed to you by the good book, or it's revealed to you by television or some other authority. Now it becomes this issue of right versus wrong. I've said that perhaps too many times, but it's this right versus wrong thing that causes the emotions to come into play. So when you tell a person that they're making a mistake by taking a vaccine, you're telling them that the reason they were taking that vaccine isn't because they wanted to get jabbed. They did it because it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to protect grandma and all the children from this disease. You had to do your part. so that you were a good person, a good citizen. And now you've got somebody telling you that you've made a mistake. No, you can't even consider it. It's like telling somebody that their religion is wrong. No, it's out of the question. That is not a topic for discussion because it's the right thing to do. You know, like that. And it's a profound challenge for anybody. I'm not any different than anybody else. I have these beliefs, and I've had a couple of them that I've had to really disassemble. And it was hard to do because it was deep in my convictions of what is right versus wrong. That's my take on the much of this conflict. And our enemies know how to play on that very well. They play us like a fine-tuned violin. Both sides are convinced they're doing the right thing. And so obviously you're going to have a little trouble getting them to work together because you're telling them, no, you're not doing the right thing. You're doing the wrong thing.
So
and by the way, on top of that, it makes no difference what the facts are. You can point to the facts and say, well, look, the number of people dying after the vaccines is greater than the number of people who didn't take the vaccines. This is a fact, okay? Oh, well, it doesn't make a difference because it's the right thing to do, you see. Facts are not important when you're dealing with right versus wrong.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I'll see how you feel about this. It seems as though specifically the left wing or the leftists, they lack any sort of a belief such as religion. And so
the last thing I heard was something about the left wing.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Sorry, I lost connection. Don't know what to say. Now I see your picture is back.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can now. Last I heard was something you said about the left wing.
Yes. So leftists in specific seem to have such a deep belief in the state itself. Unlike the right, who tends to be a bit more religious. Is it correct to say that the left usually has to destroy?
Well, you broke off again, but I think I'm going to have to respectfully disagree a little bit with that statement. I don't see the left and the right as being opposed to each other as much as most people do. I think the left wing and the right wing are two wings of the same ugly bird called collectivism. And traditionally, the left is supposed to be communism, the right is supposed to be Nazism, fascism. But what's the difference? They're not. They're the same, basically. They fight each other for territory and dominance, but not over ideology or what they believe. And the left wing, of course, idolizes the state, and so does the right wing. Have you noticed lately that the Republicans vote for big government, bigger government, and finally total government? They're all for total world government. You don't see the Republicans being laissez-faire people. Maybe a couple of generations ago that there were a few, but not today. The question is, do we want Social Security? The question is, well, how much and when and who gets it? There's no question on principle. No, the government shouldn't be doing these things. They're all the same. And so I don't see that this is a left versus right ball. I think as many Republicans are involved in this adoration of the big state than as the Democrats are. The Democrats say, let's just go run everybody off the cliff as fast as we can. And the Republicans say, oh, no, we're moderate. We'll run them off the cliffs more slowly, more moderately. And that's about the only difference.
Yeah, the right wing seems to be what was it? The right is collectivism, but driving the speed limit. Whereas the left
speed
seems
limit,
which
they're prepared to change at any moment's notice. By the way, I get
as long as you just give them the power, though.
Yeah, give them the power to do it, and they have the power. I mean, how many times has Congress put ceilings on the national debt? National debt is a problem. So how do we solve it? Let's pass a law and say the national debt cannot go above this certain level until they
Yeah.
need the money. And then they change the law. Well, we'll raise the ceiling a little bit. It's a scam. It's stupid. How people fall for this only because they don't think. They just respect the fact that Congress is doing it. Oh, Congress is doing it. That means these congressmen, these wise people are doing it. It must be okay. There are more crooks per capita in Congress than outside of Congress.
So with your knowledge and with your time spent in the liberty sphere, the liberty movement, would you say that there has been more people coming to the side, wanting to fight for what's right, to be able to expand liberty, or has there actually been people leaving the movement?
Two aspects of that question is why I'm hesitating. The first part is real easy. Yeah, there are more people waking up because you know the stench is getting stronger. You can't ignore it anymore. It used to be one guy that people say, "Oh, these things you're talking about would never happen in America." This is America, man. Don't you know? This is the land of the free and the home of the brave. We'll never allow things like kids through the school system. It happens. And because the kids don't know about the land of the free and the home of the brave, they don't know what that purpose, etc. So, yeah, people are waking up now because they can smell the stench of totalitarianism everywhere, and so they want out. They want to resist. They want to fight back, but they don't still idea.
Oh, lost him real quick. Let's see, we'll get him back up. Apologize to the guest. Let's see here. Oh,
Let's see what's
okay.
happening now. I see my
All right.
picture. Well, I guess that's fine.
I can hear you just fine.
Jacob, I don't see you yet, but
Let's see.
40. That's something to look at.
Okay.
So that's at
I
your
can hear you
end.
just fine.
Anyway, let me just continue what I was saying is that, yeah, as the stench of totalitarianism gets stronger and more people can smell it, and they have to finally get to the point where they complain about it and they say, we got to do something. They have no idea what to do about it. So it's a good sign that people are waking up, but it's a bad sign because most people
Knew that this might be a problem, so let's see here. Just so everyone knows, we will be getting him back on.
Now we'll wait a minute again. All right, so
Okay.
I'm sorry about this coming in and out, but I keep losing internet connection for the show. So I'm saying that I was saying a moment ago that people are waking up, but they don't know what to do about it. They want out, they want to change, but they don't realize that in most cases, the people in the systems that created the problems in the first place. I mean, if you think that the Federal Reserve System is going to offer you a new monetary system that's going to solve a problem created by the old monetary system that they created, you're just not thinking very clearly. But yet, that is how most people think. If you think that the same politicians, the same political parties that got you into this mess are now starting to come out with a solution, get you out of the mess, it's you're doomed for slavery because that's where you're going to go. And you'll be thinking that it was all you're doing all along. And they'll say, well, it's for your own good and you didn't do what we told you to do. So now you have to pay the price. And you say, oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'll do better next time. In other words, this is where the information is necessary. Education is a very boring task. but you cannot have liberty without understanding and knowledge. But by the same token, you can't have a liberty and without having the ability to convert that information and that knowledge into political action. You have to get out of your living rooms and off your fat couches and out into the political parties and out into all the power centers of all fired up about, because I think we've come to the point now where enough people really understand what the problem is. If we can just get those people unified together and work together and discover to realize that individualism is the selectivism, and come to an understanding of what that means, then we have an excellent chance of turning this around and rebuilding, and not only rebuilding new edifices of liberty that have never been seen before, because we have built the foundation now.
Oh, looks like we lost him right at the end. Let's see here. All right. Okay. All right. Can you hear me? Let's see. Can't hear you on our end. Oh, there we go. Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? We got you on our end. Okay. Let's see there. Let's get him back up. Okay. Can you hear me? Oh. Yep. Like I said, I do apologize for this, everyone watching. This was something that we knew might happen. Oh, and there we are. All right, can you hear me? All right.
Well, it
You got
looks
sound
like
back?
I image yours, but I don't know if that means I'm going out over the internet or what. So maybe I'll just sort of rephrase what I was trying to say a moment ago, which is that yes, people are waking up at a rate much faster because they can see the consequences of all these things that have been done in the past. They're compounding, they're adding to each other to the now it's so large and so close that everybody can see it, and so they're worried. But the problem that I worry about is that, do they know what to do about it? They'll probably still, many of them will still go and follow the same people, the same leaders and institutions that created this mess. All these, well, who am I? Am I a Republican or a Democrat? As long as you start that, you lose, because this is that paradigm, and look for something other than right versus left. Look for right versus wrong, and look for what is the political system or the ideological system. And my answer to that, I discovered some time ago, is that individualism is what we want. Collective individualism is what we used to have and what we do want now. Now that's the big topic right there, but it's at the foundation.
Oh, and we lost him again. Let's see. So what I was trying to say, we will be getting him back on. We had already discussed that at some point in time. Will be happening probably sooner rather than later. So thank you for everyone who is, limping it through with us. So here we go. Okay. All right. Can you hear me? see. All right, there you are.
So Jacob, this must be torturous for your listeners to have to go through this on off, and I feel so bad. So sorry.
It actually
the few
it actually seems like
all the way and suffered on off business, but
it actually seems like too many people are not.
There's kind of a little lesson here. We can try, and so we're still trying, even though it's not working right now. You don't just give up and walk away. You just keep trying, and who knows, if you just keep trying and don't stop, maybe it'll work. All we know for sure that if you stop trying and stop trying to make it work, it won't work for sure. So if you want any chance at all of success, you have to do what you can. And that's kind of a metaphor for the whole movement, isn't it? It seems like the task is so impossible. It's not working. It's not working. So what do? Just quit and say, it didn't work. Let's, put the chains on. I'm now a slave. No, you keep trying, because it might work. And I think if we put the pieces together correctly as we see them unfolding, it will work. So let's get busy and start doing it. Don't look back, look forward.
I would have to entirely agree.
Yeah.
Oh, and we do got a little feedback this time. Oh, and feedback's taken care of. So, but it seems like most of the listeners,
it looks like the recording has stopped on my side.
Oh, yeah, it seems like most of the.
So it's a mess for sure.
Oh yes, this tech is a bit of a nightmare, but everyone was so excited to see you. They're putting up with it. So let's see here. All right, everything still looks good on my end, as far as everything has so far, anyways. Let's see. So can you hear me? Nope. All right. Let's see, we were going to wrap up here soon. So if anyone watching does have any questions, throw them in the chat real quick and we'll see if we can get a couple of questions in. Let's see here. All right. All right, you're coming through great now. Can you hear me? No, you might not be able to hear me. Okay. Do you have?
Well, there you are again.
All right, can you hear me?
I guess this momentarily. This must be painful for your viewers. If we have any left.
Let's see. Can you hear me? Let's see real quick. Okay. All right. Can you hear me at all?
So, Jacob, I would suggest that in view of the tremendous.
Oh. Yep. Well, as listeners can see, listeners and viewers, technical difficulties seem to be getting worse, most definitely. We'll see if we can wrap it up and get him back on here for just a sec to, let's see here.
So, Jacob, I was going to say, I would suggest in view of this tremendous problem we're having, that maybe we can reschedule this for, stopped again. Reschedule this for a future date. I'm having some technical people come out here tomorrow to check out all my systems. And with a bit of luck, maybe they will find something that they can fix that'll make this better. If not, after the 14th, after the 15th of February, I'll be back at my home base where we have a much better internet connection, and we could perhaps reschedule it at that time and
Yes, of
go over this
course.
again and maybe get it done better. And meanwhile, I'll think of some other things to say on this topic, and maybe we can reschedule it. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I was just letting everyone know that we would like to get you back on anyways. So
Yeah.
why don't we wrap up here? Just because of the circumstances, would like to say everyone did absolutely love it either way, and that it was good to see you.
Oh, well, thank you,
So
everybody. It's good to know that you're out there, and it's good here
yeah,
for me to be here to be seen. For those of you who don't know, I thought I was not going to be here at this time. Uh, about a year ago, I came down with what they call COVID, which I think is weaponized flu to
yep.
get us all sick enough that we want clamor for vaccines. But anyway, that's my personal analysis of this. Anyway, I've recovered pretty good, except I'm still a little short of breath. So I'm anxiously looking forward to getting over that. But a year ago, I didn't think I was going to be here on the state. So I'm very happy to be talking to you. And you can imagine how glorious it is to think that I still have
Yes,
time to get all these good things done.
exactly. So yeah, let's wrap up here. You hang out for just a second so we can take care
Sure.
of a couple of things on the back end.
Yeah, be
And
glad to. Yeah.
everyone else, thank you so much for tuning in. We do both apologize for the technical difficulties. It was just something out of our hands, but we will come back and make it up to everyone and have a more smooth show coming up. So, for everyone that's made it to this point, thank you so much. Make sure to go check out Mr. Griffin's books. You can look them up on Amazon, and I do believe I have a link in the episode description to his store himself. Make sure you give him the money, not somebody else. Um,
Yeah.
there's also several other links. Red Pill University. I believe you said there was some work going on with some of your websites
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, we're trying to move up to the next level, and it's a big step up, but technology really stands in the way. I'm longing for the day
Oh,
that
it
maybe we
does.
can return to the pencil with the eraser and postage stamp, and it'll be so simple.
It really would. So, uh, otherwise, make sure to hit that like button, the subscribe button, the share button. We're always fighting the soft censorship of our big tech overlords. So make sure and get these conversations out. And they can't do anything to stop us. We will. You'll be able to find us no matter what. Just go to risetoliberty.com/links, and that pulls up everywhere we are. Once again, thank you so much for everyone. And hold on, Mr. Griffin, everyone
All right.
else, until next time,